Members, we have reached the appointed hour. The Finance Committee is now called to order. We have earmarked 2 sessions to deal with our agenda items, and if the FC is not able to complete its work before 6:30, then we'll have a break for 10 minutes after 6:30, and then we begin again at 6:40. And with regard to the agenda items, with regard to the Appropriation Bill 2014, we are not going to deal with the related items, i.e. items 1 and 3. And as for declaration of interest, I'd like to remind members that if you have any direct or indirect pecuniary interest in respect of the matters to be dealt with today, please declare your interest according to ROP 83A before you speak. And please also take note of ROP 84 with regard to voting under the situation of direct pecuniary interest. The first item on the agenda is agenda item 2, which is FCR 2014-15-2. The item seeks to approve the recommendations of the Public Works Subcommittee made at its meeting held on the 19th of March. There are 2 items, and they are PWSC 2013-14 number 37 and number 38. A member asked a separate voting for PWSC number 38. And if there are no queries, then I will take out PWSC 2013-14 number 38 and then put FCR 2014-15 number 2 to the vote. With those in favor of the item FCR 2014-15 2, please raise their hands. Thank you. Those against, please raise their hands. No. Any abstention? None. All right. I think the majority of the members who have voted are in favor of the proposal, and the proposal is endorsed. We now turn to PWSC 2013-14 number 38. The paper proposes to upgrade part of 747CL to Category 1 according to MOD prices, $340.8 million in respect of advanced site formation and engineering infrastructure works at Kutong North New Development Area and Fanling North New Development Area, detailed design and site investigation. To answer members' questions are the following officials, and they are Mr. Matthew Chang, Undersecretary for Development, Mr. Michael Chan, Principal Assistant Secretary for Development, Mr. Wong Ming To, Project Manager, NT North and West, CEDD, Mr. Tang Wai Leung, Assistant Director, Civil Engineering and Development Department, Mr. Loman Tim, Chief Engineer, CEDD, Ms. Jacinta Wu, Assistant Director of Planning, and Ms. Cecilia Lee, Assistant Director of Social Welfare. So, a show of hands, please, if you want to ask, or rather, please press button if you want to ask questions. Yes, Mr. Chen Chi-Chin. Now, concerning declaration of interest, Kutong North and Fanling North NDA involve a lot of land, wide area of property. And I have not seen any member who have declared interest. I want to remind them once again. I've already invited members who have any interest to declare such interest. Even government officials like Mr. Paul Chan has missed to declare his interest or failed to declare his interest. I'd like to remind members who are present to declare their interest directly or indirectly. Is there anyone who is going to declare interest? Among the government principal officials, do they need to declare interest? I'm talking about members. Please declare your interest. I've already reminded members with regard to declaration of interest, and I believe they know what to do. Thank you very much for your reminder. According to my understanding, you are an NED of Smart Tone, and Sun Hung Kai Property Development holds 60% of Smart Tone. And Sun Hung Kai also holds many pieces of land in Kwu Tung North. Do you need to declare interest? First of all, I do not see any information that Smart Tone and I myself have any interest in Kwu Tung North. So first of all, I don't need to declare interest. Number two, and I have no interest to declare, and I'm not going to cast any vote in the voting process, and I don't have any direct pecuniary interest. So I don't need to declare any interest. Now, you will not cast any vote, but you chair the meeting, and therefore you have to be seen to be fair. Basing on your identity as a NED of Smart Tone and the relationship between Smart Tone and Sun Hung Kai Property. In fact, Sun Hung Kai Property holds Smart Tone directly. The interests of Smart Tone and the Smart Tone and Sun Hung Kai have common interests. As a NED, to a certain extent, you represent the interests of Sun Hung Kai as well. As a NED of Smart Tone, will you not be seen as unfair? This is a very serious issue. Chairman, let me finish. I think, basing on this very complicated nexus of interests among the companies or big companies, I think that the chairman shouldn't be one having interest involved. Of course, it is up to you. If you're willing, I think you should step down and let other members chair the meeting instead of having a NED of Smart Tone which chairs or who chairs a meeting which is closely related to the interests of a big consortium. Well, if there is any direct or indirect interest, I will declare that. And if in casting a vote, I will make my own decision. I have listened to your view, but I think I can still chair the meeting. Point of order, Mr. Chairman. According to ROP, or rather FC order, standing order number 37, I move the motion asking the chairman to abstain from the meeting and let other members chair. Let another member chair the meeting. I want to move this motion. Please give me your written motion.
Mr.
Leung, is it a point of order? Just now, Mr. Chen Chi-chin mentioned your background. We are not aware of, or we were not aware of that. And without his questions, you wouldn't have said that you would not participate in the vote, and that involves the fairness of chairing the meeting. Now, is it against the principle of declaration of interest? If that is not, then why didn't you declare your interest and disclose information? I have not come across anything that is with regard to this item that is related to Smart Tone. And Smart Tone mentioned by Mr. Chan is just a subsidiary of Sun Hung Kai. And I think there is no need to declare any interest because there is no direct interest to declare. And secondly, I'm not going to vote on any proposal. Therefore, that will not affect my impartiality of chairing the meeting. Chairman, why do you think you are not going to vote? I've already said my condition, my position. You also have you have a casting vote. You have a casting vote. Why you say you are not going to vote? If you think I have to vote at that time, I will make a decision. And I don't intend to cast any vote with regard to this item. I've already dealt with that point of order. All right. Let's move on to the agenda item proper. I've already dealt with the question. Now, that is a motion, Mr. Chairman. The motion has been put before you. The motion is about the ruling of the chairman. You cannot stop a member from moving a motion unless you say 37A is not in line with the standing or the standing orders of the Finance Committee, or rather the procedure of the FC. I think you have abused your power. If you reject the motion, you stop the motion from being tabled. That is unfair, and you have abused your power. You stop member from moving the motion. If we lose in the vote, then we'll accept it as our destiny. But you're afraid, and therefore you don't allow members to cast a vote. Have you finished? Let me say once again, I'm of the view that there is no direct interest. Now we have a motion, unless you say the motion is out of order. If you say the motion is out of order, that is your ruling. But if you have not ruled that the motion is out of order, then having moved the motion according to the FC procedure, then you should deal with the motion. I asked for an adjournment of the meeting and asked legal advisor to explain to us whether this motion is in line with the FCR. Have you finished? Let me say once again, concerning conflict of interest, I have considered that time and again, and I decide that I can continue with the meeting. So please follow the... No, it's not about your view. It's about the FC procedure, Finance Committee procedure. You have not ruled. You have not made any ruling. I ask you to rule on the motion just now moved by Mr. Chan Chi-chun. Is the motion in line with the FC procedure? According to 37A, this is a provisional motion. As I said, there is no direct interest. Therefore, I will not allow that motion to be tabled and be voted. If you, whether you agree or not, you have already given your view. If it is a point of order, if it is on the same point, I've already dealt with that. I want to ask a legal advisor to come along. I don't believe you know the law. I have no trust in your understanding of the law. If you say you don't need the assistance of legal advisor, is it the case? And then I'll swallow it. Do you think you don't need the assistance of legal advisor if you're finished? I understand your point. The so-called point of order has been discussed many times. Mr. Martin Liao. There is a motion. Is not directly related. Now you have already made a ruling. A ruling is your ruling, whether it's appropriate or not. Concerning the point of order, I've already addressed that point, and I've ruled that there is no direct interest related. And if you have any challenge, you should follow that up on other occasions in order not to block members from discussing the matter. Well, Chairman, I ask for legal advice. Do we have the right to ask for a piece of legal advice? I have the power to make a ruling. You are not above everything. If we believe that we need the advice of legal advisor, let me repeat. I think your point of order with regard to declaration of interest, there is no direct interest to declare, and we shouldn't waste time on discussing the matter. It's not wasting of time. This is a very important matter. Smart Tone is a subsidiary of Sun Hung Kai, and Sun Hung Kai has a lot of interest with regard to Kutong North and Fanling North. They have a huge land reserve. Let me repeat. If I were a director of Sun Hung Kai, then I would have declared interest. It is really very indirect, and I don't have any interest. Therefore, I can decide whether I will have to declare or not to declare interest. I have already said that there is no need for me to declare any interest, and there is no direct interest at all. So my ruling is that we should go into the agenda proper. Chairman, you have not looked at the wording. Now, please read out the wording and what it is. I think what you said is not logical. Your explanation is unrelated to Mr. Chin's motion. In fact, your explanation is your ruling has no legal basis. Your ruling is inconsistent with the motion moved by Mr. Chen. To be fair, for the record, maybe you ask Mr. Chen or you yourself read out the motion. Let the world know what the motion, the wording of the motion is. He has not finished reading his motion. Maybe you can ask Mr. Chen to read out the motion, see how you abuse your power in making a ruling on the motion. I've already stated very clearly whether I need to declare interest or not. It is the point of order which you raise. Well, I fully understand your motion. You have not distributed the motion to members. The chairman has the power to look at the motion, and if I think the motion is relevant, then I will put the motion before members. This is the provision 37A. Concerning what you said, I've already looked into the motion and I've made a decision. I have also, already exercised my power in dealing with that motion.
A point of order. Well, being legislators and members of this Finance Committee, we're entitled to know the wording of a motion tabled by a member at this meeting. And what is being queried is whether you are the right person, or is it appropriate for you to continue to chair this meeting? It shouldn't be for yourself only to decide. Everyone in this meeting should be party to the decision. You cannot just sweep it under the carpet and say that it's okay. So you should allow the committee to discuss this motion. First, we have to be made aware of the content of the motion. Second, whether it is appropriate for you to continue to chair this part of the meeting. It should be a decision for the whole committee, not for yourself only. Let me reiterate, I have read the motion. In accordance with Rules 37A, I'm entitled to decide whether the motion is directly related to the item here. If I so believe, then I will deal with the motion with the majority support of members here. I've already stated my decision. If members are agreeable, we will continue our meeting. It's as simple as that. So I do have the right to chair the meeting. Chairman, I request to speak. Please wait in line. No. Even before we start the discussion of this item, no, I'm not. I'll talk about whether there is any conflict of interest. The only query I have is, as the chairman, you refused to deal with Mr. Chen Chi-chun's motion, which is about yourself, and you yourself ruled that there is no conflict of interest, and yet we're not being made aware of the content or wording of the motion. This is against the order. No, it's entirely about conflict of interest. It is very clear. You yourself have no power to decide or to rule that you're not questionable. I do have the right to chair this item. I am of the view that the content of that motion has nothing to do with this item. So it is my ruling that there is no need to deal with the motion. If you think differently, you can pursue on other occasion, or even after this meeting, you can choose to challenge my ruling. All right? I end here and I will continue with this item. And if your remarks or what you're going to say is not related to this item, I will disallow it. The first, Ms. Gary Fan, Chairman. Why can't we ask the legal advisor to tell us? As you know, the whole community of Hong Kong is very concerned about conflict of interest. You have told us your views, but as you know, the legal advisor has a very in-depth understanding of the question of conflict of interest and will tell us about the arrangement of the parent company and the subsidiary company. Well, I respect your status as the deputy chairman, but please allow me to continue to chair this meeting. Have you sought legal advice, Chairman? Please respect me. Let me tell you that as the chairman, I have made my own judgment. So if members do respect the meeting, let's proceed. Mr. Gary Fan, 4 minutes. Another point of order, Chairman. Well, you said directors of Sun Hung Kai have to declare interest. I don't know whether there are other directors of Sun Hung Kai here. All right, directors of Sun Hung Kai have to declare interest. And what directors of what other property developers have to declare? Now, since you're in full grasp of the question of conflict of interest, can you tell us how many more members have to declare interest? I don't want to struggle on this point. I have made clear my own view, and I've also declared interest. I'm not talking about yourself. I'm asking, other than Sun Hung Kai, are there directors of other companies here that need to declare? Well, I don't want to be bogged down by this point. I've already asked members to declare interest. All right, we will start the discussion of this item. Mr. Gary Fan. No, Chairman, this is also a point of order. Can you please clarify or explain? On the 19th of March, a PWSC meeting was confirmed by officials that in Kwun Tong North and Fanning North, there are private lands. Henderson, Sun Hung Kai, and Chang Kong Holdings, and also another property developer have confirmed that they do hold land there. Now, Mr. Porter is not yet here. I don't know whether he's going to join this meeting and even cast his vote. Well, he may not have any conflict of interest with these property developers. However, he has got 2 properties here. Now, if as a result of the development in Kwun Tong North and Fanning North, well, property prices may rise in the vicinity, given this scenario. Now, if Mr. Porter arrives to join this meeting, now since he has not declared interest, he may participate in voting. I'd like to ask, or I'd like you to say whether there is any possible conflict of interest. Well, we're talking about a public works project, so please confine your questions to this item. No, Chairman, it is not here to deal with conflict of interest. No, this is a very serious issue involving public interest, and it's also about the impartiality of this council's proceedings. Now, we will formally go into the discussion of this item. We must ask questions related. Are you saying that Mr. Porter has no direct or indirect conflict of interest in this item? No, I'm telling you that we're discussing a public works item. Paper PWSC 2013-14-38. This is not about conflict of interest. Of course, this is an issue of conflict of interest. PWSC 2013-14 747CL development at NT North NDA and Fanning North NDA. Now, if members have any direct or indirect pecuniary interest, we must deal with this interest before we proceed. I don't think we need to. Can you tell us why? Please do so in the appropriate forum. Well, this is the right meeting. This is the right forum. My ruling is we don't have to spend time on this item. on this issue, but you have to explain. You want an explanation. Does Mr. Porter have any conflict of interest here? Mr. Mlangxing, Chairman, do you feel that Mr. Porter has no conflict of interest involved in this item? You are done. Point of order. Please, wait a moment. Let me repeat once again. If your questions are related to this public works item, I will direct officials to reply. Questions other than those, I'm afraid I will rule them out of order, and there is no need for anyone to answer them. It's as simple as that. So please respect the chairman's ruling in this regard. It's exactly because I respect you as the chairman of this meeting. This question should be for you to answer, not for anyone from the administration. I already answered your question. No, your answer or your reply is not comprehensive. This is not related to a public works item. There is no one for anyone to answer this question. If you don't like it, too bad. No, this is a question of whether I like it or not. So is your answer that Mr. Porter has no conflict of interest here? Are you saying that Mr. Porter has no conflict of interest in this item? No. Under Rule 83A, we know it is required any member with direct or indirect pecuniary interest to disclose the nature of interest. If a person thinks that he has no interest, then this is personal matter. The chairman has not made any declaration, nor has anyone here. All right, since there is no declaration of interest, let's proceed. Anyone who is on an irrelevant matter, please leave this room. Well, if this item is not related to the to the public works item, I cannot direct any public officer to answer. All right, the second member, Mr. Albert Chen. Your point of order has already been dealt with. Well, I follow your procedure. No, it's not your turn first. You asked me to. You said you have a point of order. You said for other questions, we can put it to the administration as to whether there is any conflict of interest. What point of order are you talking about? Well, you said that you're not going to deal with any point of order. If it is an irrelevant one, I'm not going to deal with it. If you do not have a related point of order, please do not waste the time of other members. I've already heard your view. It is not a point of order. I am not going to deal with it. Why won't you allow me to speak? Why wouldn't you allow me to speak? Why can you disallow me to speak? All right. What point of order do you have? Well, you can drive me out like Jasper Zhang did. Well, if you continue to create chaos, I will do that. I'm asking you, what point of order? Under what standing order? Well, I could, but An Jiang was in the way. Well, if you do not have anything concrete, I don't want to waste members' time. All right, if you still have questions, please press the request to speak button. This is a point of order. What number? Give me 10 seconds. This morning, I gave you a motion. You spent 6 hours, and yet you have failed to scrutinize it. No, it was not really 6 hours. You delivered it at the secretariat at noon. Now, if it is a relevant order, so you're saying that that is not a point of order. Let me repeat once again. A motion will be dealt with to a certain extent before we deal with this item. All right, that's clear. All right, we go back to our normal proceedings. Please do not interfere. Please do not disturb the meeting. Why have you skipped me? You completed your question, but no public officer could answer it. I haven't completed my question. The second question on conflict of interest. Henderson, New World Chang Kong Holdings and also and Henderson Land and have holdings here, and that includes a New World. Now, if we want the whole item to be fair, according to my understanding, Mr. James Tan should not be party to this decision. Chairman, I seek a ruling from you. Since there has been no declaration, it's not necessary for me to make a ruling. No, I'm asking you, I am requesting you to make a ruling as the chairman of the meeting. Well, I've already heard your question, but there's been no declaration of interest from other members. No, the crux of my question is, given the circumstances, the fairness of the proceedings will be affected. So why don't you deal with it? I've already dealt with this issue. How? I've already dealt with this item. I've already reminded members to disclose interest. Whether there is any need for declaration will be up to individual members. All right. Do you have any other questions? I now propose an adjournment motion for the Secretariat. All right, please take it out for me to make a decision. So you have completed your questioning. Well, if there is an adjournment motion, then we should deal with the adjournment motion first. Wait till I've got it here. No, you should give priority to a motion of adjournment motion. This is just the basic of chairing meetings. Well, according to Standing Order 39 or Rule 39, a member who proposes the motion has to make it clear whether he's seeking an adjournment of this item or the whole meeting. So please make yourself clear. Rule 39. Well, I propose to adjourn the debate of PWSC 2013-14-38 involving advanced site formation and engineering infrastructure works at Kuto North NDA and Fanning North NDA 747CL. All right, that's clear. All right, we can now deal with your motion. All right. I have the following ruling to make on this motion. I'm going to deal with Mr. Gary Fan's motion now because it is a motion to adjourn the debate of this item. Now, we should allow Mr. Gary Fan 3 minutes to give us the justifications or reasons for moving this motion, and then I will open the floor to members to respond. All right, 3 minutes for Mr. Gary Fan, and other members will also have 3 minutes to speak each in relation to your motion, Mr. Fan, okay? Yes. In accordance with Rule 39 of the Standing Order, I move a motion of adjournment because the administration has overlooked the aspirations of residents of Kt North NDA and Fanling North NDA that the project should not go proceed, and Town Planning Board has not completed the scrutiny of the relevant Town Planning Board and of the OEZP. So I think the administration has jumped the light in starting the development of NT North here. This is against procedural justice, and given that there is strong opposition, the government should not impose this development in the community. The Town Planning Board has received 21,817 objections to the Kwun Tong North NDA and also 21,600 objections to Fanling North NDA. Only a very few of them are for the development, so there is a big discrepancy between those who support and objects to these proposals. So the government should not create a fait accompli by imposing this project on the community. And I understand that many residents, or rather legislators in NTE, has received complaints. On the 16th of January 2014, there is suddenly published a freezing survey in KTF and FLN for assessment of rehousing and compensation. This is tantamount to forcing villagers to promise to move out of the two places before time.
So this is a huge psychological stress to people who insist on not being relocated. Recently, there was a villager who committed suicide and died because he or she could not deal with the pressure. So it has cost one life. I think the administration has exhausted every means to cause nuisance to the residents just to get them to agree and move out. Now they want to get funding approval for design and site investigation. This for the advanced site formation and engineering infrastructure work. This is unreasonable. So I ask for an adjournment debate on adjournment on this one. They will have to first finish with the town planning process of the OZP of the Kwun Tong North and Fanling North, so that the administration will hear fully the public's views, consider their case before we deal with this. I ask the clerk to supplement on the procedure. Mr. Gary Fan would like to adjourn the PWSC 2013-14 number 38 in relation to Kwun Tong North NDA. If we look at the Finance Committee procedure, this number is actually FCR 2014-15 number 2. I think a proper way is for Mr. Fan to move a motion to adjourn FCR 2014-15 number 2, PWSC 2013-14 38, to accurately reflect Mr. Fan's intention. Could you please yourself read out the number clearly? Or just maybe I will go over and write it down. Read it out for the record. Is it FCR bracket 2014 to 15 close bracket 2? Sorry. Yes, it's FCR bracket 2014-15 number 2. Yes, it's recorded. So we will follow the order of members who have pressed the button to speak, whether they would like to speak on the motion or on the item. If you want to talk about the item and not the motion, then you can withdraw. Mr. Albert Chan, I speak in support of the adjournment. In relation to Kutong North planning, at the outset, I have already put forward a number of doubts because there is a transfer of interests, and this is specially selected in terms of planning. If you look at the Kutong North development, you see that it is specially designed for conglomerates. It's for a conglomerate to use its name or the name of the subsidiaries to advance its interests. It's very clear that the administration planned Kutong North as mainly residential use, and that site is right next to a train station. It's one of the 4 major developers' land, and it was the land was acquired through 4 years' work. The planning department dovetailed their work and plan and zone this site as residential. I think it is it dovetails the land acquisition of the developer. So it's nothing to do with Sanonkai, it's nothing to do with some members. You see that 20 years ago, amazingly, they already knew that it would be planned as residential. And how prejudiced it is shocking to us. Well, it's for some other land owned by the local dignitaries, they are shown as GB or conservation. And that's why they're so angry. Well, I am from NT West and not NT East, but the whole thing shows the lopsided treatment of by the administration, and it is shocking. In the past, there were 3 steel plants in Chongquan-O. Siu Wing was zoned as a residential. For the other ones, they've been split up and zoned as public utilities and roads. And for one steel plant, you allow a road to go right through it. So it's really amazing. If you don't like that steel plant, so you put a road through it. And you use a land acquisition ordinance. And if you like it, like Siu Wing, you turn this into residential. So you see there is a very different treatment to benefit certain people. And this once again is in full display in Kutong North. I think you have to be fair to all landowners and rezone the entire area. If we agree with this, it means that we support the transfer of interest from the government to developers. Dr. Fernando Zheng, I speak to support Mr. Fern's motion. In relation to the site formation and investigation in NTNE, if it starts, it will generate a huge impact. The entire project is top-down. So the administration has steamrolled over the public and owners and villages. Over 10,000 people have been affected. They've been forced to move. They've been displaced. I think this is the biggest displacement in the past 30 years. And there is a huge injustice involved. I'm not going to go into detail. Whether it is site investigation or land formation, we don't know how many people will be affected. All we know is that there are some welfare facilities in this Dill's Corner. There are over 20 blocks of residential care homes with over 1,000 old people living there. These old people have been living at Dill's Corner RCHEs. And the RCHEs have been there for over 10 years. And so far, the administration has not come up with any concrete proposal to accommodate the 1,000+ old people. For when the project starts. And this issue has remained unresolved. How can we approve this project? We're talking about over 1,000 old people. When work starts, they will be completely helpless. And there is also another facility. It's called the HOLF. In the past, I have, on a number of occasions, expressed about the concern of the arrangements of a lovely, loving faithfulness. And it was only then that communication started. Arrangement is still unsatisfactory. In relation to the site formation, the HOLF will be affected. This HOLF provides service for people suffering from serious disability. The site will be taken away, and the site given back to them is not given directly to them. Sorry, you only have 3 minutes in the first round. Next, Mr. Ray Chan. Thank you. Well, in relation to your failure to deal with my motion, I express my discontent. I speak to support Mr. Fan's motion. There are 8 legislators from NT-East. Only Ronnie Tong was missing. Before we came here, we've always been very concerned about the development in NT-East. We know that the whole project is fraught with problems. The administration planned the area behind the back of villages. It was only until when it's too late that the villagers knew about it. And there's been a spate of scandals. First, the town planning process has not been completed. Are you so rushed to start the project? Well, the administration said that this is the norm. I don't know how many similar cases you can cite. Let's see if we can go into detail later. But it's obvious that there is a very strong objection. If you only have to look at the number of objections received by the TPB. If we approve the funding, then we will be creating a fait accompli situation. When I think some people think that Hong Kong people always object to anything before they start. In relation to this NT and E, there has been so many interests involved. Maybe you are involved in a subsidiary company of a parent company of something and something, and then in the end is involved. And I think if you chair this meeting in a fair way, it will be a lot smoother. If this motion is endorsed, it gives you the chance to go back and look at all the interests of your family members. Government officials have missed something out in the past. And I think you should err on the safe side and declare more than you think is necessary. And don't declare only after you've been found to have not declared by the press. The electrical was asked questions about the declaration of interest, but the press did not get anything. And now they want to ask for Ping Che and Ta Ku Ling to wait for a few more years. And I think we should give the town planning process some time to finish, and for members to go back home to look into whether there is any conflict of interest in your family. Mr. Leung Kwok Hong. Well, I think, Chairman, you should not be a chairman because there are so many interests involving you. I think I should be the chairman because I don't have any interest in anything. And I think I really should be elected. Wong Kok King is not here. Well, please pan the camera to his desk. There are four tins of luncheon meat. The Town Planning Board plays a role. The chairman is the PS of the Development Bureau, the permanent secretary. So he should have known about the entire thing. This item under discussion, the OZP has seen 21,817 submissions and 21,600 representations. So about 40,000 views. I think you have already lost the battle spectacularly, and you still want to go ahead. Now we give you a chance to break. You want to accelerate, but it didn't work. It won't work if you put your foot on it again. You have to wait for the whole process to complete. There is no procedural fairness at all. I've always been told about this. Let me say this again. The TPB comprises a member of a representative of the Development Bureau, and there is a landslide objection and still they don't do anything. I just want to know whether there is any previous case that when there are so many objections received and yet a decision is made against that. Perhaps you can dig the record and find one out for me. Where are you, Wong Kok King? We're talking about the 18th can of luncheon meat. Please come back here. Well, I can't call for a head count, and I want to know where Wong Kok King is. Can you ask him to return? Your time's up. No. Next, Mr. Lang Yu Chung. I speak to support Mr. Fan's motion for two reasons. First, I object to a fait accompli. Before the case is heard and completed by the TPB, you can't just let us do the dirty work for you. So because if we approve the funding for site investigation and formation, then the TPB will have to approve the case. You should not force our hands. This is inappropriate. Don't think that the TPB is a rubber stamp. You know that in Sun Yulong Center, a few blocks will be built. All along, the application has not been approved by the TPB. It's been over 10 years. And still, a final decision is not yet made. You have to bear in mind that there will be views of the TPB. Yes, in general, it's a rubber stamp, but in the odd case, they will express their own views. So why don't you wait for the application to be dealt with before we deal with the funding approval and funding application? Number 2 is the consultation. You handle the consultation as per the old practice. You consulted the rural committee, you consulted the district council, but for local residents, you don't reach out to them, or it's only a superficial consultation. As Dr. Fernando Zhang said, the HOLF, were you not forced, you would not have started the consultation recently. We've told you many times, this is a huge project. And villagers, farmers, shop owners have direct interests in this. So why can't you, well, you can't not have consultation. On December the 12th, 2013, in January, well, you consulted the DC, and in January this year, you started consulting the Shantin DC and Rural Committee. Can you tell me, how many residents' meetings have you had? How many times have you talked to shop owners, farmers, and villagers? So the consultation is not detailed enough, and the administration has been saying that they are people-oriented. But you ignore their request to not to be relocated. Next, people in the public gallery, would you please be quiet? Next, Mr. Wu Chi-wai. Thank you. In relation to this, in the last PWSC meeting, there was a detailed discussion. Unfortunately, a lot of issues close to the heart of members are not explained. Say, for example, the RCHEs at Dill's Corner, and the implementation of agricultural policy there. It's not been confirmed whether the rehabilitation of farmland at Kutong South involves direct negotiation between farmers and landowners.
There were 20,000 odd objections put before the Town Planning Board. This shows that it's not the right time to make a decision on anti-northeast, nor should there be any land formation works. Now, the decision today will affect the decision of the Town Planning Board, and it will also have implications on the use of public money. If the government is going to do something which goes against the decision of the Town Planning Board, then that will be unfair to the residents as well. I therefore find that the adjournment motion is the right thing because it allows us time, or it allows the administration time. The administration should go over all the problems and try to find a thorough solutions to these problems, instead of just touching these problems on the surface. Before the Town Planning Board has made any decision, it is not right to start any works in relation to the anti-northeast. The government has to show its sincerity and commitment. It shouldn't just steamroller through the proposal. I and my colleagues of the Democratic Party support the adjournment motion so that the administration will be allowed adequate time to go over the problems in relation to the northeast anti-development and address all these problems and questions so that there will be all these problems can be resolved. Mr. Liu Chao-yang, the Labour Party supports Mr. Gary Fann's adjournment motion. We believe the whole case is unfair. First, we oppose the administration's partiality in favor of the big consortia. The administration resumed land on behalf of the consortia and enabled the consortia to become richer and richer. The administration is going to drive people homeless. We therefore ask for no relocation and no clearance. I ask the government officials, if your homes are cleared and you are driven away, will you accept it? The administration helps the consortia to amass land. And you try to package it nicely. You say you are going to build HOS and PRH estates. But we all know that the PRH and HOS estates are just a smokescreen. They are to help the consortia to develop the property holdings in that area. And the consortia are exploiting the people, and the government is assisting these consortia. The government is jumping the gun. The town planning board has yet to complete the whole town planning process. There are more than 20,000 objections, and there are only few supports. And you don't listen to the people. You don't address these objections. Of course, you are in full control of the town planning board. You ask us to believe in the procedure. But suppose the town planning board decides against the government's application, then you will have wasted the money for site formation, and that's really not right to jump the gun. And finally, you clear the farmers. You are happy with, in doing so. You just destroy farmland. But when we raise the issue of the golf course which serves the rich and famous, you say you conduct a review slowly. If that's the case, then you should review the situation of the farmland in NT Northeast. You better deal with the golf course first, rather than Kutong North. If you want land, get the golf course. And you don't use the land of the golf course, and you want to take away the land of the farmers and the villagers. Tell us how you're going to deal with the golf course before you come back to us and get approval for development of Kutong North. That should be the right step. Next, Mr. Chanakan. With regard to the consultation of NT Northeast, the consultation didn't start in just a few years past. There has been long consultation, and whether the consultation is satisfactory to everybody, different people have different assessment. But the issue has been discussed by the community for a long period of time, and we can see that NT Northeast will be developed for housing mainly, and public housing or public sector housing will be around 50% or even more. This is to address the inadequate supply of public sector housing. We believe we need to continue to discuss NT Northeast development. There will be relocation and compensation of residents. And I have contacted those from the RCHE of Dale's Corner, and I have arranged a meeting between Mr. Chang, the Secretary for Labour and Welfare, with the representatives of Dale's Corner, and I hope that the administration will address the issue of compensating these NGOs and also help them with relocation. And with regard to public housing, we are going to conduct a public hearing. In fact, the Commission of Audit reports criticize the administration for a slow movement in the provision of public housing, and the administration is really very slow in the provision of public housing. If we can speed up the anti-northeast development, it will go a long way in providing public housing to the public. We therefore oppose Mr. Gary Fan's motion, and we should continue to discuss the motion, the item. Please keep quiet, otherwise I'll ask you to go out. Next, Ms. Emily Lau, the Vice Chairman. Mr. Vice Chairman, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Wu Chi-wai has already stated the position of the Democratic Party. As a representative of NT East, I fully understand the demand of the people in NT East, including those who are sitting in the public gallery and also those who are watching us in front of the TV. Just now, Mr. Chen Hai-ken said that there were 3 consultations. He said that might not be good enough. And I hope the DAB will ask the administration to do the consultation well before moving ahead. With regard to getting land for buildings, we understand this. But why can't the administration handle the matter properly so that those who are affected, be they 10,000 or even more, can be cared for, including the LCHEs in those corner garden? We went to visit them, and they came before us, and the problem has not been resolved. And also, what about agricultural policy? Some farmers want to continue farming. And if there is a policy of providing agricultural land, then the problem will be resolved. There is no answer from the government. As for the Town Planning Board, there are tens of thousands of representations and objections, and they have not been addressed. The Undersecretary have put it down, I believe, in his notes, and the administration has to address all these questions. Tell us whether you have failed to do what you should do. And now you try to steamroller through this, and you cause a great dispute in this council. The government just don't know how to, the administration doesn't know how to rule Hong Kong. It doesn't have, when there is not enough land, you try to amass land, grab land from whatever places. This is a simple matter, and you really can't deal with it. Every time when you bring your proposal before this council, you cause great controversies. Chairman, you should ask the administration to answer all these questions. How they can deal with all these problems raised by members of this council and by the public. You have to deal with all these issues before you can get support in this council. Otherwise, there will be great controversies in this council. There will be great disputes in the district. Do you really know how to govern Hong Kong? Please keep quiet. Next, Ms. Helena Wong. Thank you, Chairman. I speak to support the motion. The issue before us is one of the biggest land purchase over 30 years. It involves 170 hectares. The government is going to spend huge sums of money to pay compensation. Concerning those who amass land, I don't know whether there are members who have done so, including the chairman. How is the administration going to compensate those who own land in the NT-Northeast? You are going to spend huge sums of public money to buy land from the private owners. You will drive people away from their homes. Tens of thousands of people will have their homes wrecked simply because of this development. Is it that we don't have land? In fact, we have a lot of land. The golf course in Fanling is very big, and only 2,000 people are using it. Even if you resume 1/3 of the golf course, you have a lot of land for housing development. Why you drive people homeless? You buy land from landowners, and you face huge objections. There are more than 20,000 objections opposing this proposal, and only 7 are in favor of this proposal. Now, you ignore all these objections and you jump the gun and ask us to make a decision, to give you the money. Here, they ask us to give them the money to do advanced works, but there are outstanding questions. Say the golf course of in Fanling, the HAB asked to establish a new post to review the matter. We just need 1 year. If it is just for public interest, stop the private clubs and resume land, that takes just a year. Shouldn't we allow time for the administration to do that? And there are also farmers in NT Northeast. They want to continue farming. They want to continue their present lifestyle. What is the policy? What is the agricultural policy of the government? The Food and Environmental Hygiene panel has put it on the agenda, but there is yet to be any discussion on that. So we should adjourn the discussion of this item and have these problems addressed before discussing the matter. To be fair, I will give some time to the Undersecretary to respond in a before we put the matter to the vote. Thank you, Chairman. First, on town planning process, we've already explained that before. What we are doing are in line with our established practice. It's no different from other items. Let me explain to you once again. The items that have adopted similar procedures are the development of Anderson Quarry, Kai-Tak development, development of Southern Runway, and also infrastructure works, Phase 2 of Wan Chai development, Tuen Mun Area 54, land formation, road and drainage works Phase 2. They follow the same procedures. As for freezing survey, it was an established practice. When the item became mature, when there was a defined scope, then we would proceed with freezing survey. That has been done in the past, and that is the same. As for one suicide case in Kwu Tung, I hope you understand this. The villager killed himself or herself. It was not related to the development. The family had already moved out, and we cannot express our condolences, nor can we provide any help. As for the planning process, I will ask Mr. Wu to explain on the planning process. So Dale's Corner. Now, within 600 hectares, the 600 hectare area, there are NGOs, and we have been contacting them and talking to them. With regard to the study of NT Northeast, it has spanned over a long period of time. The first was in 1998. There was NT Northeast study. And then there were many consultations in 2001. We consulted different stakeholders, including NGOs in the area. And we sent consultation documents, and we went to the district councils. We have been doing consultation. Recently, when we restarted the study, we did in-depth consultations. We kept talking. We have been talking to the stakeholders in the area, including Dale's Corner and also the Home of Loving Faithfulness, or HOLF in short. SWD colleagues have talked to them. Maybe I'll ask later the SWD colleague to speak on Dale's Corner. On the 12th of May, a meeting will be held, and we will discuss the matter at the welfare panel meeting on that day.
I
also want to clarify this. The funding is for the design of advanced works and also for site investigation. There will be no site formation works. By 2018, we will start site formation. and population will only move in by 2022, 2023. So you can rest assured that there will be no site formation before 2018. All right, if I may ask the planning officer to explain the planning process, and then Ms. Lee of SWD will explain the welfare aspect. Please be precise and concise, because there will be time for you to address the question. Let me explain the development of the OZP. In fact, on the 20th December 2013, we gazetted 2 OZPs, Fanling North and Kutong North. In the 2 months of consultation, we received, or exhibition, we received objections and representations. On the 15th of April, we announced these representations, and then public will be given 2 months to give their views, and then we will deal with the comments and representations, and then by the 3rd quarter, we will do this work. According to the TPO, the Town Planning Board will have to deal with all these representations and comments within 9 months, and if need be, the CE in Council may extend these representations and views by another 6 months. The 2 OZPs have to obtain the approval of the CE in Council. This is the town planning arrangement. Thank you. SWD, just briefly, what you need to explain in respect of the adjournment motion. With regard to the LCHEs in those corner garden, there will be about 900 odd elderly people involved, said by some members and the policy and the Undersecretary. The SLW and SDEV went to the LCHEs and visited them, and we've met with the operators of the LCHEs. While accommodating to the clearance because of anti-northeast development, we try to minimize the adverse impacts on the LCHEs and the residents. We'll continue to talk to the operators of the LCHEs to fit in with the anti-northeast development.
Regarding farming, the AFCD has closely followed the development of this matter. In Kutong South, there are vacant farming lots, and they are discussing with farmers of KTF and FN so that they can choose to lease land, to hire land from the site. Regarding in situ land exchange, well, there it has to be approved by the Town Planning Board in the OZP first. And we want villages affected with compensation close to what the government offers before this arrangement can proceed. All right. I will give this question to Mr. KK Fung to be the last speaker, and then we will vote on this motion. 3 minutes, Mr. KK Fung. Thank you, Chairman. I think colleagues have quoted some cases such as Dill's Corner Garden and also the farmers in Kutong and Takuleng. I went to the Dill's Corner Garden to meet with many elderly persons and Shakta and Kutong. I met with members of the Rural Committee. You have the feeling that once you have announced the arrangements, it will be okay. However, people are not assured. There are 16 elderly homes in Dill's Corner Garden. Can you say that in future, should there be any problems, you are willing to compensate them with land of the same size and environment? Now, if have you you should not have given them an undertaking before you have confirmed the feasibility. You should consult people first so that you can give a list of things that you can promise and things that you can't. So you should conduct a stock-taking exercise. In Kutong, there are farmers. Is there any farming policy from the government as to how agricultural land should be dealt with and what should be the future development? You don't have any, and you ask farmers to agree to let you have their land for development first. So, do you consult people first or conduct studies first, or do you make a decision first? I think you should have consulted people first before making announcements. Now, after public consultation, you should conduct studies and you should give us report of your consultation and tell us what are the requests that can be acceded to and what are those that can't be acceded to. Thank you. All right, we have to put this item to the vote. That is, this committee do adjourn the debate of paper PWSC 2013-14-38 under FCR 2014-15-2. So I'll put this item to the vote. The division bell will ring for 5 minutes. I claim a division. All right, staff, please deal with the public gallery, situation in the public gallery. Chairman, procedural point. Can we allow Mr. Gary Fan, the mover of the motion, to summarize his points? I think we're all clear, and also allow the administration to respond to members' comments. I think I've been reasonable. I've allowed both sides time to do what they want. All right?
OK， 再排個隊。呢啲文件咧，我記者見嘅時候咧，我哋帶住佢解釋，咁你自己俾我其他嘅。 請保持肅靜。
Order, please. Otherwise, the staff will take you out of the chamber. All right. Members, please cast your votes. Before I declare the results, please check your votes. Voting is closed. Display the results, please. 22 for, 28 against, 51 members are present. The motion is not carried. All right. We'll continue with the discussion of this item. Members, please press the request to speak button. All right, we will register members who would like to speak.
俾工作人員安排嗰個呢個排名。
All right, I allow time for the staff to arrange the speaking order. All right, we resume the discussion of PWSC 2013-1438. First, Mr. Albert Chen. Chairman, first I'd like to remind once again your relationship with Sun Hung Kai, although you've already made a ruling. On the 2nd of November 2011, in the meeting when you were elected a director, well, you had the support of 878 million votes. And Sun Hung Kai back then held 6.9% of the shareholding of SmarTone. So you had the support of 550 million shares, and in return you received a remuneration or honorarium of 240,000 per year. Of course, that is not considered high as an NED of SmarTone. Many of us here may get more than you do. However, you undeniably do have a relationship with Sun Hung Kai. While you made a ruling that you had no conflict of interest here, I'd like to point out this information is from an annual report of SmarTone, while you might want to deny it. Well, please refer to paper FCR 2004-9 FCR 10910. Please read this paper. That is about conflict of interest involving the chairman before you continue your line of questions. Well, I fully understand your interpretation, Chairman. But as I said, the chairman must be seen to be fair in chairing meetings. We should not just confine to the letters of the paper on the definition of conflict of interest. You can continue the timer. You can time me, but I must say that you must not chair the meeting in a way that is deemed not to be fair by the public, because that will shake the confidence and credibility of this Finance Committee. Now, it's just like Mr. Paul Chen, Secretary for Development. He has hoarded land in NT North. If when it comes to compensation, the Secretary for Development gains over $10 million, well, this will make farmers who have lost their farmland angry. This will also make people who are evicted from their homes angry. All right, I'd like to refer to my previous remarks on partiality. Because this is actually a transfer of interest. Now, one single developer has owned such a large site of land. Why don't you zone it PRH or HOS? Why have you zoned it private housing? Secretary. I give the floor to Ms. Wu to explain to you our planning work. And as I said, we started our work in 1998, and then in 2001 we started public consultation, and it was only in 2008 that we conducted another round of public consultation. So when you decided to zone this site residential, did you know that the land was owned by a certain consortium? Ms. Wu, thank you. Starting from 2008, we did the engineering study of NT Northeast, and our consultant considered a basket of factors in drafting the OEZP, including compatibility of land use. Please allow her to finish first. So please answer simply. My question is very simple. In 2008, when you drafted the map or the OEZP, did you know that the land was owned by a large consortium? Well, when we drafted an OEZP, we considered a basket of factors. My question has not been answered. Please allow her to finish first. I will give you a little bit more time. Land ownership is not part of our consideration. My question is, did you or did you not know? Well, if you did know and you didn't consider that factor, it's your problem. So my question is, did you or did you not know that the land was owned by a consortium? Well, why have you avoided this question? Is it that you have a hidden agenda? I think she has already answered you in the way she has chosen. Mr. Raymond Chan. Well, my motion is not about your having breached any of the standing orders. However, my motion intends to allow the members to decide whether the chairman should step down and defer to another member to chair the meeting. Please dig out paper FC 27/0910 is exactly about the question you just referred to. I think I have exactly followed what a chairman is supposed to do in chairing meetings. Let's not waste time and put your questions to the administration, please. All right. The Undersecretary said that town planning procedures were done simultaneously with fund application procedures. And he quoted example of the Anderson site, Kai Tak North, and Wan Chai. And so what area in Tumon? I did not hear him properly. But were those sites as controversial as KTN and FL land we have here? Because there was such a marked contrast in terms of the number of supporters and objectors to your proposal. So for those examples you quoted, were they just as controversial as the one here? And when will the town plan procedures end? What if you wait until the town plan procedures are completed, you come for money? How much time are you talking about? Ms. Wu will explain the town plan procedures to you. And let me clarify, in the planning procedures, we only consider land which belongs to the government or land which belongs to the private sector. We will not try to search for the landowner. So Did you deliberately choose not to do so, or did you know who was the landowner? Ms. Wu, we've got about 20,000 odd objections, and those representations were already published for public comments. And then, according to the town planning procedures, town planning board would conduct public hearings to hear the representations, and we have to do it within 9 months in accordance with the time limit. And then we will submit the draft OZP for the Seeing Council to approve. As Under Secretary said, all the works would only start after the OZPs are approved. You didn't answer my question. My first question was very clear. You quoted examples of Anderson, Kai Tak, Wan Chai, and Tuen Mun. Can you give us a few examples as to how controversial these sites were? And if you wait until all town plan procedures are completed, how much time are you talking about, and what will the impact on your overall program? Anyone? Mr. Wong, please, regarding the impact on your project program. We hope to start our design by the consultancy in August. If we wait until the town planning procedures are completed, that would be a delay of 6 to 9 months, because the town planning procedures can only be completed in early next year. After that, if we start our selection of the consultant, that would mean a delay of about 9 months.
So when the actual construction will start 2018, your time's up, Mr. Leung Kok Hong. Chairman. Well, still the town planning procedure will have to complete. You said that there will be, you will let it finish, but at the same time you're asking us for funding for site formation. So I'd like to know, how do you know that the decision of the town planning board is an approval? Well, I have read it to you. There are only a single digit of support and tens of thousands of people objecting to it. So I'd like to ask you, what tricks do you have? What is your knack to ensure an approval from the town planning board? Is the PS of Development Bureau here, because he's the chairman of the TPB? The secretary will answer your question. Which one? Mr. Yeung. How about the chairman of the town planning board, the PS, the permanent secretary? You want an answer from him? Yes. Well, we don't have a PS of Development Bureau here. He's the chairman of the TPB. Well, secretary, can you answer him? The PS is not here today to attend the meeting. When I will explain to you about the town planning procedure and our work. The department and our colleagues are very confident with this proposal. I'm also very confident with you, and I'd like to ask you. Paul Chan said that there can be discussions about the golf course. If the golf course can be put to other uses, that means Dill's Corner and the controversies will not materialize. So when will you be able to deal with the golf course? So you don't want to touch the golf course because it's a plaything for the rich. Well, and the golf driving range of the West Kowloon terminus, you didn't even dare to drill holes there for ground investigation. You have money, so you can do whatever you want. Last time, when I went to the driving range, I wasn't allowed in because I wasn't wearing the right attire. Is it because you did not wear their attire, that's why you weren't allowed to go there and do what you're supposed to do? You're scared by the grandeur of their establishment? When it comes to the Fanning Golf Course, it's of an area of 122 hectares. We're talking about Fanning North and Kutong North. It's about 600 hectares or so. Kutong North started its development in 1998. We're talking about first intake of 2023. It did not work under the C.H. Tung era or the Donald Tsang era. When it started in 1998, you tried 3 times. I know, there were 3 consultations and to no avail. What are you talking about? What do you think you were doing? You're not even civil servant. You're only an undersecretary, an underling. Next, Mr. Tam Yu Chung. When I raised my hand, I wanted to respond to the point of declaration of interest. I wanted to speak on it, but actually there is an established procedure. On a number of occasions, the legal advisor explained to us. So it's not something new. And it's not something special either. Every member exercises judgment whether there is any interest involved. If they have missed a declaration, they will be subject to criticism, and that has been past cases. So I think it's nothing special, Chairman. But when it comes to land acquisition, especially when it's a large piece of land involving a large number of people, every single time is controversial. I think it's necessary to spend more time to deal with it. And I heard from the Undersecretary that even if they start site formation, it will take them through to 2018. So first intake will be 2022 or 2023. I think you should spend more time on compensation and relocation. We can't touch any site. How can we build PRH flats for those on the waiting list? And this is also a problem we have to deal with. We have to strike a balance when it comes to controversial matters to minimize the impact of those affected, to make sure they get reasonable compensation and good arrangements. I've met with the elderly people at Dale's Corner. Of course, they were concerned and they wanted no relocation and no clearance. No matter what the arrangements in the future, it has to be a good one to allay the fears of the people affected. We will support this item, but we think that you really should do it really well. Next, Mr. Ip Kok Hiem. I asked to speak on a point of order. It's also about dealing with conflict of interest. When it comes to dealing with conflict of interest, you will find in Rule 83A and Rule 84 of ROP, it's been made very clear. Chairman, I think you dealt with it in accordance with rules of 83A and 84, and that's appropriate. If you refer to Rule 84, it's clear that in any subcommittee, committee, panel, any meetings of the LegCo, members should not vote on a matter that has a pecuniary interest directly or indirectly related to them, unless the interest is enjoyed by everyone in the public, or it is a matter related to government policy. This is a project involving land. Yes, there are interests, but if it's something that enjoyed by all members of public or part of the members of the public, Mr. Leung Kwok-hong, please do not interrupt. If you don't understand, it's your problem. So we all have to be aware that we are legislators. We have to speak for the good of Hong Kong. When a member mentions about another member who is absent, is not appropriate, because it's for the member to make the judgment as to whether to declare or not. If a member chooses not to declare, and that member will be held responsible. And a member also mentioned about 37A. And it's not about whether you should be chairing the meeting or not. It's about voting. So if we use 37A, is not appropriate. Well, I am the chairman of the CMI. I feel obliged to make clear the relevant rules to the public. We're all accountable to the public and to our constituents. And I still have some time left. The Town Planning Board has been mentioned repeatedly. You have done some assessment, and you have also set out a list or table about previous approaches. So do you think that it would be a waste? When it comes to housing needs in the audit report, there has been some mentioning about the tight supply of public housing, and there are great challenges. Kutong North and Fanling North will be a prime site to supply housing in the medium and long term. Whether there will be waste as a result of the decision made by the Town Planning Board, I will defer to Mr. Wong. And this is a normal procedure. They go in tandem. Before we work on the detailed design, we conduct a review. Before we map the way forward for detailed design. If we can start detailed design in August, we can engage a consultant to do that. Of course, we will do a review before that. At the end of this year or beginning of next year, according to the current timetable, there will be a decision made by the Town Planning Board. There may be some minor amendments. We have enough room to accommodate minor amendments before we work out the detailed design. Next, Dr. Fernando Cheung. In relation to town planning procedure and funding application to the Finance Committee, I would like to explore whether there is a possibility of wastage. I heard that it's a usual procedure. The Town Planning Board will deal with the procedure, and you will make applications to the Finance Committee. Is there a possibility that the TPB will reject the application, that is the Gazette of the OZP, there is a chance that the TPB will reject the application. Is that true, Under Secretary? We believe that the TPB will make a decision based on objective facts and the evidence, and they also take into account the objections. We are confident that it will make a reasonable decision, and there will not be wastage. And I'd like to ask, in the town planning procedure, how many objections are there, and how many supporting views are there? According to the latest information of the Secretariat of the TPB, in relation to Kutong North, we have received 20,727 comments for supporting. Fanling North, 21,718 comments, 3 supporting. That means over 40,000 of them are objections. I think your question has been answered. She said yes. We heard from Mr. Ma. That is a usual approach, and he gave us a lot of examples. That after Gazetto, the town planning procedure would go ahead, and funding application would also be made. In these cases, did any of them involve a landslide view? That is, the majority of the views expressed are objections compared to a handful of supports. Any such situations? In the past, there has been quite a number of controversial cases. You may know that in some cases it has taken quite some time before decision is made. Some of the representations are only on a small part or a certain part of the application. We think that in the town planning procedure, when the decision is made, we will still have room to make adjustments. So it's your usual procedure to make funding applications to the FC. But objective and reasonable line of thinking is that the town planning board is not a rubber stamp. It will make up its own mind to approve in its entirety or in part your application. The administration should come back to us after the whole procedure is completed. That will be ideal. But I was told that they are confident. What is the objective criteria? Is that there is a large number of objections. I'm reasoning with you. They explain to you that they are confident. And I think he will supplement. Yes, we all know about the figures. Well, next time I will talk about logic. Next. After the next member, we will have a short break. Mr. Leung Yu-chong. Just now, the Under-Secretary said that the Town Planning Board will deal with the application based on objective grounds. And the officials themselves have already said that there is a small number of supporting views and a large number of objections. And I think the officials are not fair. They only talk about the number of supporting views and not the number of objections. And they said out loud that there are 3 and 4 supporting views, but they did not say the number of objections. Should they maybe grow a spine? Mr. Yang, Ms. Yang, you told us that there are objective grounds. I think you are partial. So, will the Town Planning Board, is there a chance that the Town Planning Board will reject your application? Yes or no? Undersecretary, would you like to answer again? The study has been going on for a number of years. We've had 3 rounds of consultation lasting for a long time. We have got the support of rural committees and district councils. When it comes to the town planning procedure, we believe that the TPB is an independent statutory body which will make an appropriate decision. You did not answer my question. You dodged my question. Are you really a government official? Can you understand me? If you can, answer my question and do it to the point. Is there a chance that the Town Planning Board will reject your application? As I said, the Town Planning Board is an independent statutory body. It will make its independent decision. So is there a chance that your application will be rejected? Answer me. You can't even answer my question. So are you talking about facts? Tell me the facts. Can they reject your application? Your question has been answered. What answer? Does the TPB has the power to reject the application? But your question has been answered. How? The answer is that they have the independent power. Just that he did not answer you whether whether the TPB would reject the application. So answer me, yes or no. So has there been previous cases when the Town Planning Board has rejected applications? Any supplement?
Yes or no? With regard to the decisions of the Town Planning Board, it did propose to change the plans or amend the plans. Did they reject your application? Do you have information? Can you give information after the meeting? According to the TPO, the board has a responsibility to draw up OEZPs, and in drawing up OEZPs, it has to consult members of the public. And having heard the views of the public, according to the TPO, it can amend the plan, and the amended plan and the views of the public will be put before the CE in Council. So it will not just endorse the plan lock, stock and barrel. As the chairman, we still have the, I rule that we still have the second session, and please come back after 10 minutes. The meeting will resume at 20 to 7.